Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan on K+. It is Saturday, December 8th. The state prosecutor demands the harshest punishment for defendant Vladislav Chelakh, while some relatives of those border guards murdered in Arkankergen ask for a death sentence by firing squad. Our correspondent monitored the trial of the year in Taldykorgan.
Окончательно назначить Челах наказание в виде пожизненного лишения свободы.
I demand a life sentence for Chelakh in a maximum security prison, in accordance with paragraph D of Article 48, effective from June 4th, 2012.
Срок наказания исчисляется 4 июня 2012 года.
Когда меня вызвали в Учерал на опознание моего брата.
Back when I was invited to identify the body of my brother in Usharal, they offered me a face-to-face confrontation with Chelakh, whom I had seen only on TV. Previously, I only wanted to ask him whether he actually shot my brother. He confessed that he did, although I still had my doubts about it. However, upon what I saw here and the documents I studied, I'm very determined. I want to have him imprisoned for life. I agree with the state prosecutor. This tragedy left the parents without children and the woman without a husband. Ever since the trial began, neither Chelakh nor his mother asked for our forgiveness. We came here from all over the country. We attend every process while the defendant Chelakh is not here. He does not respect the court. If he really did not commit the crime, why couldn't he be here and go through all of this along with us? I request a life sentence for him. However, I still have a question. Where are the remains of my son? Supposedly, the remains of bones at number 14 belong to Imenov. However, the German expertise has not fully identified it yet. I refuse to believe that these are my son's remains. Therefore, I request to consider Meirkhan Imenov missing. I request the court to make a just decision and give Vladislav Chelakh a death penalty executed by the firing squad. I request 3 days to make preparations, or otherwise I see no reason. I do not want to listen to your reasons any longer. In this case, I am not going to be here on Monday just to tell you that I cannot perform. I would not come here at all. I am convinced that all of this has been fabricated to the point that even these people want to blame everything on the boy. Let them conduct an additional investigation to find out who really did it. In the meantime, they should let the boy free.
Those who visit Zhanaozen to honor the memory of the deceased oil workers continue being detained. The latest is representative of the Uralsk delegation, Makhsat Aisautov. At 8 in the morning, security forces seized the memorial plaque dedicated to those killed in December 2011 from a group of 7 people. After the police department, Aisautov was transported to the mayor's office.
I was offered to go to the city administration because the city mayor supposedly wanted to see me. They took me to the local administration office in a police car. I saw the commemorative plaque on the desk in the mayor's office. I told him that I will take it back because it belonged to me. The police pulled over the car with the delegation at the checkpoint entering the city. On suspicion of transporting stolen goods, they took one of the visitors, Aisautov, to the Department of Internal Affairs office, where they examined the commemorative plaque with the witnesses present. They explained that there might be a contraband of drugs inside the commemorative plaque. Then the head of Internal Affairs held a conversation with the detainee Aisautov in his office, asking about the purpose of the delegation's visit. According to the activist, the tone of the conversation was rather threatening, as he was even offered to be sent back to Uralsk. Nevertheless, Aisautov, along with others, managed to meet with the city mayor. The official made the guest sign a note saying that they will not hold any rallies and protests, whereas the issue of a commemorative plaque will be resolved by the respective authorities, he said. According to the member of another delegation from Almaty, Mukhtar Tajan, all the fuss with detention of activists is nothing but a provocation before the memorial date. We came here to be with the people. Unfortunately, the authorities confiscated even the commemorative plaque with the names of the victims, which was especially made by the activists from Uralsk. They wanted to have the plaque set up here in Zhanaozen. However, as you see, it was taken away from us.
Close to 300 Russian citizens will not be able to discover America. The United States Senate ratified by an overwhelming majority the bill dubbed the Magnitsky List on Thursday. Those on the list now face financial and visa restrictions. These are Russian citizens who, according to American legislators, are involved in human rights violations.
This is the extended version of the bill. The first Magnitsky list was adopted as early as 2011. According to it, 60 Russian citizens did not have the right to enter the United States, and their assets in the U.S. banks were frozen. Most of the people involved in the case are employees of the Investigative Committee, Ministry of Internal Affairs and Tax Department. According to the U.S. party, all of them are linked to the death of the lawyer Magnitsky. One of the bill's initiators, Senator Kardian, proposed to extend the Magnitsky bill that would punish not only those guilty of a crime, but all those who infringe on human rights and are involved in large-scale corruption schemes. It was expected that the bill would be applied to all countries and not Russia only. However, currently the law is only applied to Russian citizens. The list of travel banned people is not disclosed for state security interests. On the one hand, this is a kind of a political gesture implying that we have certain problems we cannot solve on our own, and that is why they will be pressuring us in this way, showing they are still fighting for our democracy. This is only the tip of the iceberg that looks good. Secondly, this is a way to pressure Putin and make him trade for entirely different issues. There is an issue of Magnitsky, the Middle East, Syria, and others. If this is all serious, then it might raise some concerns. To recap, the lawyer of the Hermitage Capital Foundation, Sergei Magnitsky, died in the pretrial detention center 3 years ago. According to the attorneys, his death was caused by the pretrial detention center administration's refusal to render medical aid to the accused. Sergei Magnitsky was accused of aiding and abetting tax evasion. His colleagues say that prior to his arrest, he exposed certain Russian officials who were involved in corruption schemes. Adopting the Magnitsky bill will mean supporting the efforts of Russians towards creating a democratic political system that respects individual freedom and human rights. After hearing these statements, Kazakhstan civil activists have drawn up and published a Zhanauzian list, an analogy with Magnitsky list in the American publication Washington Examiner. The U.S. State Department officials are not aware of the Zhanauzian list, however, they are on the whole familiar with the human rights situation in Kazakhstan.
Situation in Kazakhstan. I was there, I guess, a year ago, 2 years ago in Astana for the OSCE summit. I followed the recent events, including the labor violence that you described. It's something of concern to us. We raise these issues on a regular basis with the government of Kazakhstan and continue to push for a more open political space where people who are critical of the government are allowed to express their views. And we've had a range of meetings, both bilateral meetings with the government, but also with civil society. And we'll be doing so again at the OSCE ministerial meeting in Ireland in December.
A mass scuffle among teenagers broke out in Pavlodar. 3 school children were attacked by a group of unidentified people right at the doorsteps of one of the town's schools. As a result, 2 pupils were hospitalized with concussions. The police are now investigating the incident, although there were no claims filed.
The teenagers' fight took place between the first and second sessions. 3 high school students were attacked by 15 to 20 individuals when they stepped out of the school. According to eyewitnesses, even teachers were injured as they tried to stop the bloody fight. Somebody said that our director of studies, according to our teacher, was hit to the head with a club, and maybe she suffered an ear injury, but I'm not sure if it was her. The school administration did not confirm this information. According to teachers, none of the school employees were injured, whereas the participants of the fight needed immediate medical help. The teachers were shocked by the insolence and cruelty of the attackers. I am extremely shocked. First of all, these unidentified young men came here to fight in broad daylight, but we immediately dialed 02 to inform the police about the strangers on our premises. Shockingly, these men did not even react to our remarks. Currently, 2 high school students are in hospital with brain concussions. According to doctors, there is no cause for concern. As of today, their health state is satisfactory, and in fact it has improved. Now they feel vigorous and energetic. The police are already looking into the incident near the school. According to official sources, the victims' parents refused to press charges. Nevertheless, law enforcement forces continue to investigate what sparked the fight and identify the rest of the attackers.
An apartment of your own, is it a pipe dream or reality? How many Kazakhstanis are on the waiting list for housing? And why do parliamentarians want to limit registration in Astana and Almaty? The most pressing issue of housing was debated in Parliament on Friday. Its conclusion did not instill optimism. More details up next.
Can everyone become an owner of a new apartment? Is it affordable to all? The main question has been put on the agenda, and first answers have already been given. The discussion turned into parliament hearings with the presence of deputies, representatives from public and housing utilities and the government. The major question on the agenda is the housing issue. We have 200,000 people on the waiting list for housing who have stated their needs officially, but how many people are living in confined spaces with their friends or relatives? This is a clear indication that there are many more in need of housing, at least twice as many. So far, only 3% of those on the waiting list received their apartments. The parliament members say that those lucky finally realized their dream. This saying clearly indicates that the housing issue is rather urgent in Kazakhstan. Currently, around 9 million Kazakhstan citizens live in multi-story buildings. To provide housing to hundreds of thousands of other families, building new houses is not the only solution. Parliament members proposed to consider the already built houses, which are still empty. They did not think that the existing owners would have a problem with that. Most of the owners are abroad and they're waiting for their apartments to be renovated so that they could win them by court and sell later. We need to make changes in the existing legislation and deprive them of the right to housing after 3 years of absence and not after 8 years. I think this is reasonable. The deputy Rawan Shayekin shared his estimates according to which a third of the people in need of housing are residents of two capitals. He proposed to impose restrictions and seize registration for the people. The laws have been adopted to recognize the status of Astana and Almaty cities. Perhaps the measure that I'm suggesting may sound disadvantageous, but it is within Constitution. I believe it is reasonable to set temporary restrictions on issuing residential permits for the citizens of those two cities. The major problem of the two capitals, equity and mortgage holders, was only mentioned in passing and was not discussed in details. The proposal to build the economy low-story houses aroused everyone's interest. Dariga Nazarbayeva noted that state programs should be advertised just like washing powders, every day on all TV channels.
Expo 2017 these days is the main PR platform of the country, occupying 113 acres of land. The president and state officials from the Foreign Affairs Ministry are popularizing the event. How much will it cost? Find out in the next story.
Daily meetings on the International Almaty Exhibition Expo 2017 have become an essential part of the country's mass media routine. The session in Akorda was also devoted to the president's instructions on the upcoming event, given 5 years before the actual fixed day. It is important to come up with a truly unique architectural concept that will not only symbolize Expo 2017, but will also become a part of the world architecture and construction heritage. We will not be the first ones to do that. For example, you might remember that the Eiffel Tower was built for an expo, as well as the Crystal Palace in London. On Friday, the Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Rapil Jashabayev, had a meeting with the Capital College students aimed at explaining the upcoming expo's importance. However, the officials avoid mentioning that this honor will cost the state budget at least $150 million. The expert Marat Shabutov attempted to estimate the amount's significance. Expo 2017 will take at least $150 million out of the state treasury. Meanwhile, this amount could cover 1,642 of military research, 7 years of prisoners' detention expenses, 21 years of financing construction of emergency protection assets, or 1 year of free medical care for Kazakh citizens. In the past few years, Astana managed to host the OSCE Summit and Asian Games and became a chairman of the Islamic Cooperation Organization. Curiously, however, the most successful Kazakhstan image maker to date is the British comic actor Sacha Baron Cohen. The scandalous Borat movie, scoring $260 million at the box office with a production budget of only 18, did succeed in making Kazakhstan a worldwide infamous country. The blogger Kazbek Besibayev voiced an alleged reason behind Kazakhstan's expo efforts. Borat did boost Kazakhstan's questionable popularity. A number of countries contesting the right to host Expo 2017 eventually gave up on the idea for financial reasons. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan seems to give primacy to repairing the country's public image, which resulted in the lack of pragmatic decisions. Kazakhstan's president keeps encouraging an intelligent approach to construction of primary importance objects, for they are received as a national wealth. Meanwhile, the jump ramp once built for the Almaty Asian Games is currently guarded, as if the facility is a private strategic property.
The sixth session of the Joint Board of Customs Services within the Customs Union was held in Almaty. At the meeting, officials reported that the trade turnover between the countries reached $460 billion. The numbers impressed the poorest economies of the CIS, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. More details from the meeting next.
According to participants of the board meeting of Customs Services, the Customs Union is positively affecting the state economy, trade turnover, investments, and shifting the life standards of the population. Calculation of profits, the most exciting part, must convince that there is no alternative to economic integration. We hope that we're going to accomplish the task and collect $211 billion. You mean millions? 210 billion and 950 million US dollars. The figure is quite surprising, but we are not saying it to surprise someone, and we are already getting used to this amount. The head of the Customs Service is getting accustomed not only to 9-digit figures, but also to the workload. Our experts worked around the clock to compare the definitions, bridge positions, proofread, and language punctuation. They're also getting used to additional job duties. In addition, on the southern borders, we do the work of customs services of Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, which tripled our commitments and tasks. It also led to the emergence of new risks. At the same time, Kyrgyzstan's observers attending the meeting said they are almost ready to face these risks. The Kyrgyz government plans to join the customs union in 2013. According to preliminary estimates, our state budget will increase by 1.5 times, as well as trade turnover with customs union members, since most of the imported products come from Kazakhstan and Russia. However, the Ukrainian and Tajik representatives were reluctant to comment on the matter. The hosting Kazakhstan party boasted about increasing the state budget by $6.64 billion in 11 months through customs and tax revenues alone. Kazakhstan announced plans to go even further by joining the WTO. Meanwhile, neighboring Kyrgyzstan refrained from comments despite being a WTO member for over 14 years.
A labor conflict emerged in South Kazakhstan region between cotton growers and buyers of the white gold. Kontal Company owes around $53,000 to Makht-Aral farmers for the entire summer season. The Cotton Kings are not in a hurry to pay for work, while farmers are intent on taking extreme measures.
For several months in a row, around 30 Makht-Aral farm household owners have been making daily visits to the debtor company's office, but all in vain. Long months of hard work resulted for farmers in nothing but a heap of payslips and endless bank loans. We are left with no means of support. Our children are suffering. We had to mortgage our house for a bank loan, and now we do not have money to repay. We keep haunting the debtor, but don't get any response. Farmers say some of them did get an advance pay back in September. However, most of the workers refused from the down payment in view of getting the full amount later. In turn, the monopolists keep postponing the pay date. The only means of reaching out to the company representatives was a phone call, since management chose to avoid personal contact. We are doing our best to pay out the salaries as soon as possible. Farmers complain about facing back pays every year. However, selling produce to the neighboring regions appears to be a costly affair. Meanwhile, all the local purchasing companies are owned by the debtor monopolist. They finally must be brought to justice. Does this company even fall within Kazakhstan legislation? So many people file complaints to the financial police, but all to no effect. Local officials refrain from involving in the problem of farming entrepreneurs, letting parties handle the issue internally. Left with no government support, farm workers filed another report to the financial police department. In case it continues to be ignored, the Makht-Aral peasants will have no other option but launch a hunger strike to evoke a response from the government.
Kızılorda managers of Kastranz-Gazaymak threatened to cut off natural gas supplies for consumers amidst the heating season. Surprisingly, the problem lies at an injector, as the company demands the consumers to purchase it from their plant. All those who ended up on the blacklist have received notifications. Currently, there are 3,000 people on that list. The next report has more.
The Osmanov family switched to gas heating 2 years ago. Mukhtar, the head of the family, bought a certified injector for $79 at the market, but now he's forced to pay for it again because he risked being cut from central heating unless he buys the equipment from gas supplying company. It seems to me that it is an attempt to get rid of unwanted equipment. Otherwise, I do not understand why they would demand installment of injector within a month. Company representatives refer to the letter from the Emergency Situation Department concerning the safety of city residents. Nobody understands, however, why Gasman decided to take on the winter injection reinstallation operation based on the regular letter. Gas equipment is of course safer than an injector, but one can still use them. Under the pressure of outraged clients, Gasman had to retreat by setting new conditions to be on the safe side. From every person who refused to install it, we will get a signed waiver making them irresponsible for the consequences and depriving their right to file a claim against us. 22,000 houses in the region consume natural gas, and 3,000 of them have installed time-tested regular injectors. The hassle with the replacement will affect only those who have no quality certificate for the equipment.
Ambulance service in Almaty is entering a new stage. Medical crews are training according to international standards when drivers will become male nurses. For several days, they're going through intense training, learning to provide first aid and work in a team with doctors. Meanwhile, the doctors themselves will intensify medical studies and improve qualification. More details in the next report.
Теперь ровненько ложимся, чтоб не грохнулся. О, молодец. Куртку принесу.
The Almaty ambulance service is adopting new quality standards. According to the chief physician of the Almaty First Aid Station, Birjan Osmanov, from now on the drivers will also act for paramedics. The station management is planning to train all the employees, amounting to almost 2,000 people. Staff members undergo a 10-day training course. They will be able to start performing new duties on December 16th. This is supposed to solve the problem of medical assistance shortage. Currently, 3 to 5% of paramedic staff members are engaged in patient transportation. The paramedic training course for drivers includes CPR basics, transportation, and cardiogram-based patients' health assessment. All the medical ins and outs are taught to the students by specialists from Lithuania and Kazakhstan. The course is based on the evidentiary medicine and all the skills and knowledge complying with the US and European standards. Kazakhstan healthcare specialists now have an opportunity to take advantage of the worldwide level education program. According to the medical staff members, the Almaty ambulance service features the most up-to-date equipment, while the system of communication with the medical team on duty allows to shorten the emergency call forwarding time to 2 minutes. According to representatives of the non-government foundation Aman Saulik, while this year Almaty citizens filed almost 20,000 complaints over the general healthcare quality, few to none criticized the emergency medical services. The only problems are roads conditions and traffic congestions. We cannot really blame the ambulance staff for delays in assisting patients. Both the suffering patients and the medical workers failing to get to the place in time are victims of the ongoing traffic disorder. Foundation President Bakhyt Tumenova sees the only solution to the problem, which is building helicopter platforms. Meanwhile, the chief physician Birjan Osmanov came up with a less cost-intensive solution. He believes that the issue can be solved by a more efficient communication with the road inspection and the Ministry of Emergencies. After all, one day the government officials might also fall victim to the ambulance delay.
The first Kazakh 6-lane highway Astana-Shchuchinsk will charge money for passing from May 1st of next year. The project is already being opposed. The National Anti-Corruption Committee believes that the state chose the wrong highway for the experiment. They suggest introducing a paid system at a highway of international importance, such as Western Europe or Western China, but not one of a local scale.
According to experts, installation of the necessary equipment will require allocating around $8 million for the state budget. Meanwhile, the expected annual revenue will total $1,300,000. Thus, it will take 3 years for the toll road to justify the cost, which provokes grievance of social activists. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Transport and Communications insists that the highway payoff period will hardly be longer than 2 years, while the proceeds would finance the road maintenance. However, the Anti-Corruption Committee seems to be skeptical about the official calculations, as the freeway connecting Astana and Shchuchinsk does not typically experience high traffic loads. The only hold-up period is the summer, when Astana citizens head to the Borovое resort. This road will never pay for itself. This experiment is stupid and pointless. The government should rather have improved the traffic situation on heavy load freeways instead of picking pockets of the Akmala region guests and citizens.
By the year 2020, the death rate from road accidents will exceed the rate of deaths caused by diseases like AIDS and heart attacks. These sad forecasts were voiced by Astana state officials on Friday during the international forum, Safety on the Roads, Mandatory Technical Inspection.
UN representatives urged the Kazakhstan citizens to switch from cars to bicycles. They were alarmed by the unfavorable statistics voiced by Kairat Absatarov, Deputy Minister of Transport and Communication. According to him, the main causes of mortality and high car accident rates are due to non-compliance with traffic rules and the poor state of vehicles. The measures that agency intends to take include the improvement of roads, toughening the requirements for service stations, and provision of timely medical care. By 2020, traffic accidents will overtake diseases such as stroke and AIDS as the leading causes of death. Kazakhstan, unfortunately, is no exception in this sad statistics. Within 10 months of this year, 11,149 traffic accidents in Kazakhstan roads were registered, which took the lives of 2,393 people and left 13,652 people injured.
That is all we have time for now. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Ukraine.